We welcome onto the show Wildcat Wrestling coach Mick Ruettiger. Mick, let's start off with your 119-pounder Matt Cavalaris. Last year at the state meet, he finished 6th place. This year, looking to improve on that finish.
He lost in overtime in his quarterfinal match, and he had a couple good shots, but the kid counted him at the end of that first overtime and took Matt down. And then he came back to the wrestlebacks and won his first match, and then he lost right at the end of he lost a 4-2 match to the kid ended up taking 5th and last second takedown. And he was one thing I would never take away from Matt is his willingness to go out there and get after it. And he had a great career. He took 6th last year, and he's been a very good person in the room for us and a really good leader for us.
Let's just revisit that quarterfinal matchup against Colin Dodd of Rockton real quick. Heading into the third period, Matt was up 4-3,
right.
But then he got a couple stalling points called against him.
Yeah, Matt had a tough time getting out of the bottom. The kid was a very good rider, and they were looking at Matt as far as should have been the aggressor, and Matt got warned with about a minute left in the period, and he got warned probably about a good 20 seconds later. The referee called it that way. You leave it as that, and then that put him up on his feet in overtime. We still thought we were in good shape, but Matt knew that it's a matter of if he gets out of that bottom, it's a different situation. But at the same time, you give him credit because he went after those shots in overtime.
Now, Matt solidifying himself kind of as the aggressor in this tournament, in this weight class, do you think that kind of hurt him in that third period when the refs were calling that decision?
Well, I think that the referees were looking at that period alone and not the whole match. And sometimes, the kid that's ahead in the third period, the referees have more of a tendency to see what he's doing rather than what both kids are doing. And I think that kind of got. I don't know where the referee's mind was, but obviously he wasn't thinking that we were being aggressive enough.
We'll move on to your 160-pounder. Nick Proctor, he was more or less ranked #1 in the state all year long. Against Joe Strokia of Hinsdale Central, he lost 8-6 in overtime.
Yeah, Nick was in control of that match up through even well into the third period. It was about probably around 43 seconds left where he just didn't have a good last 43 seconds. Strokia took him down with 13 seconds left, and then Nick didn't get out of the bottom, and then they went back to overtime, and there was a good scramble in overtime, and Nick almost got the takedown, but the kid, kind of backdoored he had a backdoor situation where he popped out, set out from Nick's legs, and ended up getting the takedown, and so that was, it was not a situation Nick wanted to be in, but it was, one thing he did do, he came back the next match, and he won his match to get to the third place, where then he got a chance, then he has a walkover, but because he had already beaten the kid he was supposed to wrestle. So it was a tough situation for him, and you don't always want to have to be in a situation to come back and say, what, this is going to make me better. But when it did happen to him, you'd much have rather been in the finals, but when it did happen to him, he definitely stepped up and came out and wrestled that wrestleback match, like a champion, and he won it. And very easily he could have said, "Oh, it's over," but he didn't say that. He came out and he put it on the line again.
Now, on to the 171-pound weight class, maybe the most intriguing weight class of all of them at the tournament. Andy Spangler, he finished 2nd to Joanna Key of St. Rita.
Yes, a match. Everybody's looking forward to a key argue matchup, and he kind of put the clamps on that when he had it was a great matchup for the state of Illinois to see in the quarterfinals. You don't really want to see those matchups that early, but that's what happened, and Andy had a great plan of attack against Argue because he had lost to him earlier in the season in overtime and knew exactly where Argue was going to go, and he got his 2 takedowns and really controlled the whole match. And so you got to give it to Andy for stepping up and making that happen. And then that could have been that was a huge match for us, especially for him. And then to come back and now resettle and put your mindset to the next guy, because that guy's still going to come after you. It's not like, okay, you beat Argue, now I can't beat you, but Andy went after that kid just like he went through this whole state tournament series, and and he was very solid, very precise on what he was doing, and you know, he won 7-2 in the semis, and then in the finals, you know, he just, you know, Argue got that first takedown. We knew it was going to be a 1 or 2 takedown match, no question about that. But because they were just so good defensively, and Aki got the he got that first takedown and kind of did a great job of staying away from Andy, and Andy just couldn't close the gap in order to get that really solid shot off.
Coach, we look forward to seeing what the future brings for the Wildcat Wrestling program. Thanks for joining us.
I appreciate that. Thank you for your coverage all year long.
No problem. Stay tuned for Waubonsian Central Hockey after this short break.